Under moonlight, a pack of scimitar-toothed cats closes in, muscles coiled, eyes blazing. Humanity cowers, fragile and hunted. No fire or weapons and zero dominance. Before we ruled the world, we were prey. 6 million years ago, during the Miocene, Africa was changing. Forests that once stretched endlessly began to shrink, giving way to open savannas. The climate shifted in unpredictable cycles, wet one millennium, arid the next. These swings forced our distant ancestors, small primates once comfortable in trees, to step into the grasslands where shadows stretched long and danger lurked everywhere. Here, survival was a gamble. Tall grass concealed saber-toothed cats like Machairodus, ambush predators with dagger-like fangs. Packs of giant hyenas roamed the plains, bone crushers strong enough to scatter early hominins with a single charge. Raptors circled above, waiting for the weak to stray too far. Out in the open, our ancestors were slow, poorly armed, and exposed. They were not hunters here. They were prey. But adaptation began with small, crucial steps. Standing upright allowed them to scan the horizon for threats. Their hands, freed from walking, began shaping the first crude stone tools, flakes sharp enough to scavenge meat from carcasses left by stronger predators. Safety came in numbers, small bands gathering together, not out of choice, but necessity. Every meal was stolen, every night spent in fear. Yet each new adaptation bought them time. They would endure, but only barely. But as the world grew colder and plains hardened with ice, even greater predators emerged. Enter the early Pleistocene, roughly 2.6 million years ago. Expanding glaciers carved valleys and reshaped landscapes, pushing grasslands into vast steppes where winds cut like blades. Towering herds of mammoths, mastodons, and woolly rhinos grazed across the frozen plains, an abundance of meat, but also a lure for predators. Here, ambush was everywhere. Homotherium, the scimitar-toothed cat, stalked in packs, striking under the bright daylight when early humans searched for food. Giant hyenas crushed bones with terrifying force, and wolves, organized and relentless, hunted as coordinated units. For small bands of Homo erectus, every step into the open meant exposure. They fought not only the beasts, but the hunger. Most meals came from carcasses already claimed by larger predators. To survive, they needed an edge, and they found one. Aculean hand axes, crafted from stone, symmetrical and sharper than anything before, turned scavengers into competitors. With them, flesh could be stripped faster, marrow cracked open, and defense became possible. But their true revolution came with fire. At first, a gift stolen from lightning strikes, later a skill mastered. Fire brought warmth against freezing winds, light to push back the darkness, and smoke to keep predators at bay. For the first time, night was no longer their enemy, yet the world remained merciless. Even with axes and fire, danger circled endlessly on the ground, and soon a new terror would descend from above. Up until 800,000 years ago, the tools and fire gave strength, but now new dangers stalked sky and water. This was the Middle Pleistocene, and the landscape had just shifted again. Expanding grasslands met patches of woodland and winding rivers. Lakes glimmered as lifelines in the heat, but every approach carried risk. For early humans, water was both salvation and ambush point. From beneath the surface, giant Nile crocodiles lurked, immense reptiles with armoured hides and jaws strong enough to drag a grown adult under in seconds. Drinking, bathing, or crossing shallow waters became moments of silent terror when the calm surface could erupt into violence. From the skies came a quieter but equally deadly threat. The African crowned eagle, massive and precise, targeted the most vulnerable, children. With talons designed to pierce bone, it struck without warning, snatching life before screams could reach the clan. These aerial hunts left haunting traces, fossilized skulls of small hominins punctured clean through by beaks and claws. There was no sanctuary in the open world. Fear shaped behavior as much as hunger or thirst. And so, survival demanded adaptation beyond tools. Families began clustering into protective bands, building crude shelters from branches and stone, circling fire at night to hold the darkness back. The clan itself became the shield, each member watching, guarding, responding to cries before it was too late. Predators forced them closer together. Terror forged trust. Through shared danger, the first foundations of cooperation were laid, not out of choice, but necessity. But soon, survival would depend on more than just fear. It would demand new forms of power and strategy. 300,000 years ago, the world grew harsher. Ice sheets advanced and retreated in endless cycles, reshaping continents into frozen plains, then thawing back into brief bursts of fertile grassland. Towering mammoths, armored woolly rhinos, and bison herds dominated the land, vast prizes for any predator bold enough to claim them. But these herds attracted killers. Leopards stalked from trees, cave lions moved with silent precision, dire wolves hunted in relentless packs, and in the Americas, saber-toothed cats waited in ambush. Humans were still fragile, their bodies no match for fangs or claws. Isolated wanderers rarely survived. Yet in these crucibles of danger, something new emerged. Spears tipped with sharpened stone, hafted axes bound with sinew and resin. Tools now extended the body beyond flesh and bone. More importantly, survival shifted from individual instinct to collective design. Families became hunting parties. Clans became battalions of survival. They learned to drive prey toward hidden pits, to ambush with spears from multiple sides, to corner beasts larger than themselves. Fire was no longer only a defense, it became a weapon, used to flush animals into kill zones. For the first time, humans began to contest the balance. Predators no longer looked only at humans as prey. They also saw them as rivals. Each kill meant confrontation. Wolves at the carcass edge, lions testing the night perimeter of camps. But something irreversible had begun. For the first time, humans were no longer only prey, they were beginning to hunt the hunters. And once humans learned to hunt the hunters, the world itself became their next battlefield. 50,000 years ago, humanity began to spread like a rising tide. From the savannas of Africa into the vast forests of Eurasia, across the deserts of Australia, and finally into the frozen gateways of the Americas. Each new land was alive with predators that had never seen humans before. Lions stalked in Europe, giant bears roamed icy valleys, and crocodiles lurked along Australia's riverbanks. To them, we were still prey, but the rules of survival were shifting. Our ancestors no longer relied on stone alone. Spears gave way to atlatls, levered throwing sticks that hurled weapons farther and faster than the arm could manage. Soon, the bow followed, a silent arc of power that allowed death to travel before predators could even strike. Fire, once just warmth and protection, now became a weapon of terrain, driving beasts into narrow passes or toward ambushes. Clans grew larger, roles became specialized, scouts memorized migration routes, hunters crafted new tools, elders carried the memory of which valleys held water in drought, which mountains offered shelter in storms. Intelligence, passed down through story and ritual, became as sharp as any blade. Predators still circled, but now they circled carefully. A lone lion could stalk a wanderer, but against 50 coordinated hunters with bows, even the most fearsome beast had to yield. Each predator forced us to adapt, and each adaptation made us more dangerous. The balance of power was shifting, and this time it was permanent. If humanity could now hunt the hunters, could there have been a challenge that could stop them?